I'm Kristen from Tiny Footsteps Travel, and I'm going to give you the most up-to-date tips on visiting Canada's Wonderland. I've been coming here my whole life, and the park changes a little bit every year. I believe that Wonderland, while it may be owned by a joint corporation, is a really special and unique amusement park that has a lot of hidden gems and insider things to know about the park. Here's what you need to know for a Wonderland visit as of 2026. First, I'm going to let you know what you need to bring. If you're planning to go on the big rides, like the big roller coasters, then pack as little as you possibly can. This is the bag that I bring with me, and I bring it because I like to carry a reusable water bottle around with me. To be honest though, bringing a water bottle doesn't work for everyone at Wonderland, especially not a bag to also carry it in, and I'm going to show you why. Two of the major roller coasters, Yukon and Alpen, don't allow bags in their lineups any bigger than the one I just showed you. My bag is actually pushing it. The best thing to bring for those rides is a crossbody bag or something very small. You can also hold a water bottle separately, which I saw lots of people doing. The reason it's best to bring such a small bag, if you're going on these two rides in particular, is that they've moved to a cubby system. And if your bag doesn't fit into one of these cubbies, then it's not allowed in line with you. If you do need to bring a bigger bag and you're going on the big roller coasters, they have lockers that you can store them in, but they do cost an extra $3. One for Yukon and one for Alpen. They have little computers here where you can select a locker and pay for it. Some people chose not to do this and simply left their bags lying around. If you do so, obviously that's at your own risk. I have to admit that's what we did because I'm cheap, and obviously everything was fine and it wasn't taken, but if you want to be a little bit more safe, then the lockers are fine too. The other reason why bringing your own water bottle may not be the preferred choice for some is that the water refill options at Wonderland kind of suck. They don't have modern water bottle refill stations like you see elsewhere in Ontario. They only have these kiddie drinking fountains, which is fine, but not ideal for filling up a water bottle. Wonderland is really pushing their beverage package, and from what I understand, this is what a lot of guests seem to be doing instead. From the ads, I thought it was mostly pop, and I said no way, but it turns out that it offers water and also sparkling water too. And ice. They give you a water bottle as well to use. I opted out of this year, but the feedback I've gotten from other people is that it's worth it. They have beverage stations everywhere, and you can just fill up ice and sparkling water, whatever you want. Do whatever works for you to stay hydrated, but just make sure that it's a priority. Anyone in Southern Ontario agrees with me that it gets really, really hot in summer, and the lines can be extremely long in the sun. Especially if you don't have a Fast Lane Plus, which I'm going to talk about later. Every time I go to Wonderland, I leave an insulated water bottle in the car that keeps cold for hours. This one in particular still has ice in it, even after many hours. After a day in the heat, it's really nice to come back to. I don't know if it's just me, but one thing I really wish I brought today was earplugs. On some of the rides, it's not just a ride anymore. It's a whole game where the people running the ride are speaking into a speaker, and it's really loud. I don't know, maybe I just have sensitive ears, but if you have sensitive ears, I would bring earplugs to wear. So you can still hear things, but it's not like hurting your eardrums, you know what I mean? The ride I'm referring to is the Viking raid. I'm not sure why, but it was extremely loud. I never ended up bringing earplugs again, but I also avoid situations that are going to be loud. The advice to pack as little as possible is only really applicable for people who want to go on the big roller coasters, especially the two that I mentioned. If you're mainly going on smaller rides or spending most of the time in Kidsville, then there's no reason to pack practically nothing. It's always good to have less with you, but if you have young kids, then there may be extra things that you want to bring. I have a kindergartner and a young teen, so I do a lot of different trips to Wonderland that look differently every time. Here's what I suggest bringing for different ages. You need your phone practically every time to pull out the QR code for the season's pass or ticket. That's how they do it this year. They've gone completely digital. After that, everything else becomes optional, but these are some suggestions based on what I see other people have. I should add that snacks are not allowed in the park officially, but I see many families with them in Kidsville. I can't guarantee that they'll allow you in with them, but it might be worth a try for some very young kids on those long waits. Near the park entrance, you'll see this stand where you can have your young child measured and get a wristband that coordinates with their height color. Usually there's a lineup in front of here first thing in the morning, but I want you to know that it's not mandatory, it's completely optional. It allows you and the park staff to see very quickly whether your child is tall enough for a ride. So let's talk about the Fast Lane options, Fast Lane and Fast Lane Plus. We've bought the Fast Lane Plus a number of times, which allows us Fast Lane entrance into any rides that have a Fast Lane, plus the big four major roller coasters. The non-plus option is basically the same thing, but no big roller coasters. So no Alpen, Leviathan, Behemoth, or Yukon Striker. We used to only go to Wonderland once a year, so I felt that the Fastlane Plus, while pricey, was a way that we could fit everything in and enjoy our time in the park. Especially as parents with young kids, we don't have time or energy to be at the park from 10 a.m. until closing. So if it's not too much of a stretch and you don't have a lot of time or occasions to spend at Wonderland, then yes, I think the Fastlane Plus is worth it. However, I'll give you my honest opinion. If you're not going to get the Fastlane Plus option, then I wouldn't bother with just the regular Fastlane. The regular rides that have Fastlane don't get that busy. They're not nearly as popular as the big rides, so I would probably not buy the Fastlane in advance, and I would just wait to see how the park is before forking out the extra cash. For Fastlane Plus, however, it's often worth it once June hits, especially Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. If you decide to buy a Fastlane, then you head to one of the service stations to activate it and get your actual wristband. We usually go to this one that's right beside Leviathan, but there's also one at the entrance of the park. The new wristbands have a QR code which you'll scan before getting into the Fastlane lineup. I just recently went with my daughter to Wonderland on a very busy Friday in June where lots of local schools had PA days. These are the rides that we squeezed in about 4 to 5 hours. So this is 8 or would have been 9 rides if Leviathan hadn't had issues. Plus we sat down for lunch. So that's about 2 rides in an hour, but keep in mind that the Bat doesn't have a fast lane, and also the Yukon Striker front row is a much longer wait than any of the other rows. If you're a front row seeker like we are, then there's something really important I want you to know about the front row. Lately, I've been finding that who gets to sit in the front row of the roller coasters at Wonderland is pretty random. Yukon Striker has a designated front row lineup, but I don't find that the other ones do. And increasingly, staff members are directing you to the row that they choose once you get to the front of the line. They have the final say which row you go into. You can ask them front row, but there's no guarantee they'll say yes. They do this, I believe, to manage crowds. If they didn't do this, I think the only people in the front row would only be fast lane holders and no one else would get a chance, which wouldn't be fair. You may also notice that there are options to buy a single-use fast lane. I don't think that there's a set price for these. It's somewhere between $10 to up to $50 or more, depending on the crowd levels of that day. Is it worth it? I'd say it depends on the day, and you should make the judgment call on that particular day. It's really nice to get a break from these lines. This is me walking to the front of Alpen, which is the busiest ride this year by far. If you only have one day at Wonderland, it's a crazy hot day and you just want one break from the lines, I'd say do it. But don't buy so many of them that it gets to a point where you could have just bought a Fastlane Plus, you know what I mean? Fastlane Plus is probably best to grab online beforehand if you want it, because the price can be raised if you wait until you're at the park. By the way, if Fastlane Plus is something that interests you, I'm going to be doing a separate video on the Prestige Seasons Pass at Wonderland, which gives you one Fastlane Plus ride per visit. So be sure to subscribe to get notified when that video is released. I also want to make a special mention to some of the rides that are really fun that don't have a fast lane, like the Whitewater Canyon, the Fly, the Wonder Mountain Guardians, and the Bat. If you want to go on these, then I try to get in line a little earlier in the day as their lines actually get pretty long. Let's jump into food. The food at Wonderland is going to be pricey no matter what, but I find the prices are slightly more reasonable for restaurants that are owned by Wonderland. The chain restaurants inside the park are not only expensive, but they don't work with your Seasons Pass discount if you have one. Most of them only work with the dining pass. Just this month, June 2026, I paid $23 for a 6-inch sub from Subway. Came with a bag of chips, but still. Pizza slices are going for around $16 each plus tax right now. There's no way I can see that you can ever get a discount on these things, whereas at least with this $15 poutine I bought from the mess hall, we were able to get a discount on it. So there are 3 ways to save big on food at Wonderland. 1, use your Seasons Pass on the Wonderland-owned food brands only, because I said the third-party ones and the chains don't offer you a discount. 2, get the dining pass for the day. It's around $40. You get 1 entree and 1 side every 90 minutes to ensure you don't share the pass with someone else. That's what I assume anyway. And just ensure that the place you're going to accepts the dining pass. And the 3rd tip is leave the park to go either eat a packed lunch that you leave in your car. We used to do this all the time when I was a kid. Or just across the street from Wonderland, There's a pizza, Starbucks, Kelsey's, Wendy's. There's a Sri Lankan restaurant that I'd love to try, a halal restaurant, sushi, there's all kinds of things. You would then just show your purchase tickets to re-enter the park. There's two really cool, unique things that I really appreciate about Wonderland. One is just how lush it's become over the years. I think that we're so lucky to have this park with so many trees and green space, and I hope it never changes. Even with how packed and crazy Wonderland can be on those peak summer days, I love that there's shade and places to relax throughout the park. There's also a lot of wildlife if you're looking. I saw blue herons last time, a groundhog, lots of geese and ducks. Don't feed the wildlife though, because feeding them will cause them to be more of a nuisance, which is not good for them in the long run. The other thing that I love about Wonderland is the staff. Despite the long hours that they must work, how young a lot of them are, how repetitive the job must be, I find them very polite, professional, kind. I'm always just so impressed with it. So if you're staff and watching this, just know we appreciate you and thank you for making our days so fun and enjoyable every time we come here. The last thing worth knowing about Wonderland before coming here is that there's a lot to do besides the rides. There's games, face painting, you can pay real artists to get yourself drawn as a cartoon, which I assure you is so much cooler than ChatGPT. Cliff and tower divers and shows, there's lots to do even if you're not big on rides. I hope that this video has answered some of your questions about Wonderland, and I hope you have the most amazing visit in the park.